All right, I'm very pleased to be joined again by Conrad Pimskern, leadership candidate for the BC Conservative Party. And Conrad, last time we talked, got a lot of positive feedback about the fact that people seem to be hungry, as you said, for leadership in this province, for someone who's not a politician. They want accountability and they want transparency. Can you tell us a little bit more about your plan to deliver that for British Columbians?
Well, transparency covers so many aspects, but particularly as it relates to finances. We have a fundraising system in this province through taxes, but it's not really through taxes. We have all these crown corporations and property tax programs that are kind of run like a casino. Like, for example, the largest source of tax revenue in the province of British Columbia is coming in from the property transfer taxes. Huge amount of money. Well, if we had an economic downturn or the real estate market fell off, there's a lot of people who wouldn't be able to sell their homes because they'd be underwater on their mortgages. In addition, you'd probably be a situation where people couldn't get mortgages to buy homes. And if you have properties not transferring back and forth, there's a massive source of revenue that's not funding the government in this province. We need to find other ways to generate tax revenue that aren't these hidden taxes. And frankly, those ways are be tied directly into the economy itself. If we're actually producing jobs in this province, we've actually got work and people can afford to live here and pay taxes, that's the strongest measure or sense of a province's ability to survive a downturn.
So let's talk about some of those hidden fees or taxes that we see in BC. You know, the BC Liberals love to talk about how it's the lowest income tax rate here in BC, but we get hit with MSP premiums. ICBC, I see they're raising their rates again. Obviously, we do benefit from low hydro rates, but they are going up. So where would you see maybe some savings to lower the cost of living for people? Is ICBC one of your targets?
Absolutely. And again, ICBC is like roulette in the casino. If you have a good year and it doesn't snow in the Lower Mainland, okay, it's making money and it's profit for the tax coffers in BC. But you have a bad year, like I guess we've had this last year, they've had to raise the rates, and all you need is a good snowstorm in the Lower Mainland and boom, it's losing money. And we as taxpayers aren't just paying through our premiums at ICBC, but we're also getting it sucked out of the general revenue of the province. That's a game we should not be playing. We should not be taking on this kind of risk. There's private industry, insurance companies that do this, and what we should consider is putting this out to bid with what are called reinsurers. Reinsurers are companies that will buy your risk from you. Let's start there, and let's give the insurance companies a chance to find out what our risk profile is like in this province, and then they can step up to the plate and say, we'd like to take over all of this. And then we can put it out to bid and have the best competitors come in, and that's what's going to bring down our rates. The other problem that's really big with ICBC is because everybody's in the pool, and you can get private insurance on the side. Well, the private insurance accepts the good risks, whereas ICBC has to take all the bad risks. So as a province, we get suckered into all these bad drivers, and we're paying for it. This is ridiculous. We need to go to private insurance, let the bad drivers pay the premiums that they're justified, and let the good drivers get the good premiums in the private market.
Now, just to be clear, you're not considering going to an American system of optional auto insurance, do you?
Yeah, well, no. We need to have insurance, but the other problem with ICBC is it doesn't matter if you got insurance if it doesn't pay. Everybody spends time in court fighting with ICBC. They're spending so much time with lawyers. I like the American system of insurance where you get paid when you have a claim, whereas here in BC, they fight everything. It's ridiculous. We don't really have insurance in BC.
All right, maybe shifting topics a little bit now. MSP premiums, I mentioned them earlier. Last province to have them. Christy Clark has faced pressure, I guess, from certain groups like the Canadian Taxpayers Federation to scrap them as they see them as regressive. Let's say you're leader of the BC Conservatives. Would that become a platform that you would scrap the MSP premiums?
A platform, but yeah, get rid of them. The problem with MSP is it's so poorly managed. I know people who've gone from job to job and they end up getting dinged twice for the MSP. People getting bills in the mail because they're supposed to be paying, and they get phone calls at home that are auto dial phone calls, robot calls. They call back, they can't get through to straighten it out. It's a nightmare. Yeah, no, at the very least, just get rid of it. It's a mess.
Good idea. Now, quickly, any ideas on taxation? Whether it's provincial sales tax, income taxes, corporate taxes. I mean, I actually think that many of the fiscal conservative voters may like what the BC Liberals have done. They've lowered corporate taxes and income and personal income taxes, but we're still seeing the cost of living be really, really high for most Vancouverites, especially right here in the city. Is there anything tax-wise you would do differently?
Absolutely. What's been really unique is I've been touring the province and meeting with different groups. I've had a chance to sit down with some First Nations people, and what we actually brainstormed in one session was creating tax-free zones in BC. Now, this would be in part with settling land disputes, that these bands have, but in exchange, the province would create a tax-free zone, no income tax, corporate or personal, no sales tax, no carbon tax, no tax. And these economic zones would attract people who would want to start businesses there, get things rolling, and then you get workers that come in there and they start to flourish. And if you take a look around this province, we've got so many great spots where we could set up these tax-free zones. So people who are having a real hard time making a living in Vancouver, which is really the only major center of industry in this province, will now be able to relocate in other areas where there's cheaper living, more affordable and bigger spaces. I mean, here we're in this great park in the middle of Vancouver right now, but there's a lot better parks out there in the world. The big thing is that our First Nations people in this province want to act as partners. Right now, there's this adversarial situation between the British Columbia's lawyers and the First Nation lawyers. What they really want to do is come together and collaborate. And so if we can create a dialogue and be proactive, there's some real opportunities to create tax-free zones.
I actually really like that idea. It's unique and it's innovative. It's something I haven't heard before. But just to be clear, it's not just for First Nations communities you'd be proposing these tax-free zones, potentially right here in the city where we lack really that corporate investment. Is that an idea you would maybe float?
Well, this is a brainstorming session that we did with First Nations, and really came down to is we have these land disputes, and it's getting nowhere. It's at stalemate. And what are some ways that we can break through? And this was an idea that was generated at the table. I think it's a great idea, and I'd love to promote it.
All right. One more question for you, just before you go, Conrad. I want to just hear from you first, though. If you should you not be successful in winning the leadership, are you still going to run for the party? Because I think that you have brought forward a lot of ideas that whether the BC Conservative Party should break through this election or not, that these are issues that fiscal, conservative-minded, right-leaning, right-of-center, people who just want responsible government can get on board with. It's not necessarily something that has to only be part of the BC Conservative base, whatever that is. So would you still run? Would you still bring these ideas forward no matter what?
Absolutely. And if I were to run, not as a leader, I would in all likelihood run wherever Christie's going to run. So maybe she's going to be back in West Kelowna. Maybe she comes back down here to the coast. I don't know. But I think that, for this kind of dialogue to happen, it'd be great to be running against her directly in her riding.
All right. You've heard it from the man himself, Conrad Pimisker, and leadership candidate for the BC Conservatives. For the Rebel.media, I'm Christopher Wilson.
Thanks for watching. Click here to never miss a Rebel update. Want even more of the Rebel? Well, click here to become a premium member.